welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. If you want to be sure and never miss an episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast with your favorite podcast software, including Stitcher, Spotify, or the Amazon Music app at amazon.com/OTR Detectives. Today's program is brought to you in part by the financial support of our listeners. You can support the show on a one-time basis at support.greatdetectives.net. or become one of our ongoing Patreon supporters for as little as $2 per month at patreon.greatdetectives.net. Well, it is 6 days until Christmas, and I would love to bring you the Christmas episode of Sam Spade. Sadly, none of them are in circulation. Sam Spade did actually put on a Christmas episode each year where it was on the air during Christmas time. And reading the description of each of these specials in Martin Graham's book is kind of tantalizing. I would really love to hear these episodes. The 1946 one sounds really interesting. But alas, none of them are in circulation. Even in the later Steve Dunn episodes, every episode is in circulation, except the one that was done during Christmas time. Which leaves us with the next scheduled episode in our journey through Sam Spade from start to finish, and that is The Fairly Bright Caper. It is actually a holiday episode, it just happens to be the wrong holiday. So, from October the 31st of 1948, here is The Fairly Bright Caper.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective, brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic, the non-alcoholic hair tonic that contains lanolin. Wild Root Cream Oil, again and again, the choice of men and women and children, too.
Sam Spade Detective Agency.
Very important, sweetheart. Write this down.
Yes, Sam. I have pencil and paper ready.
Ingredients, :
Punctuation or ingredients, Sam?
both.
Well, what is it, Sam?
A recipe. 1 pound of fennel.
Oh, that's liquid measure, Sam.
You put that in later.
Cross out funnel?
Not funnel, fennel. It is not liquid. It grows in fairly pines.
It's fairly what, Sam?
1 root of St. John's wort.
Whose wart?
Not wart, wart.
Oh, wart.
Don't interrupt. Some newt size, a couple pounds ought to be enough. 1 ounce of bat's wool. 1 adder fork, that is not a utensil. 1 fillet of fenny snake. Some lizard's legs. 1 hemlock root digged in the dark. Directions. In the poisoned entrails throw toad that under cold stone days and nights hast 31. And if anyone drops in for trick or treat, Effie, leave him have it.
Oh, Sam, now I get it. Halloween. It's a witch's brew. You were only fooling me.
That's what you think, sweetheart. Get out your cauldron, your poison pen, and your book of malefactions. I'll be right down to dictate my report on the Fairly Bright Caper, or I should have stood in bed and ducked for apples.
Dashiell Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talents to make your hair stand on end with the adventures of Sam Spade. Presented by the makers of Wild Root Cream Oil for the hair. Are they saying this about you? There goes somebody who's really well-groomed. And that can go for every member of your family if they spruce up each day with Wild Root Cream Oil, America's favorite hair tonic. Wild Root Cream Oil grooms hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, removes loose dandruff. If your family hasn't tried it, get Wild Root Cream Oil in the new 25-cent bottle. You'll see why Wild Root Cream Oil hair tonic is, again and again, the choice of men and women and children, too. And now, with Howard Duff starring as Spade, Wild Root brings to the air the greatest private detective of them all in the adventures of Sam Spade.
Is that the wind dying? Oh, no, it's only two devils that blow through a murderer's bones to and fro in the ghost's moonshine.
Oh, Sam, take off that ridiculous mask. You look about as much like a demon.
As a demon, check. Fly your broom into the adjoining office, sister, and we'll weave a few spells. Date, Effie.
Yes, Sam.
What is this thing on my desk? Looks like a pumpkin.
It is a pumpkin. I made it this afternoon. Here, I'll light it.
Well, isn't that cute?
Isn't that cute?
Eyes and nose and mouth. Looks like Lieutenant Dundee of Homicide.
Well, thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Well, I guess everyone knows it's Halloween, even if they don't listen to the radio. Shall we?
We shall.
Date, All Hallows Eve, 1948, to Hillary Bright, Esquire, number 13, Black Place, City. From Samuel Spade, license number 137596. Subject, the Fairly Bright Caper. It was a fairly bright afternoon for the fog-bound Bay Area. There was no frost upon the pumpkin. In fact, as yet, no pumpkin. But I did see a black cat and several attractive wolf girls in broomstick skirts during the bus ride down the peninsula to your client's ancestral estate, Fairley Pines. A bat flew out of a hollow tree as I mushed up a road through some pine woods to the house. In the gathering dusk, I also observed the toad, a lizard, and a hooty owl, which, if memory serves, are staple ingredients for a witch's brew. Then I observed, hobbling out of the forest, an authentic hag. She was wearing a dusty black robe, a peaked black hat, and her matted gray hair coiled serpent-like around her evil countenance. She leaned on a gnarled staff of hemlock, fixed me with her yellow, glittering eyes, and said,
Hello, kiddo.
Yes'm.
Which way's the house?
Which house?
Fairly Pines. Lost my bearings, I did. I was looking for some fennel.
Oh.
I got the bat's wool right enough and newt's legs. Couldn't find no adder's forks, but reckon this here copperhead will do the trick.
What are you going to do with all that stuff?
It's for the brew. I'm the witch I hired for tonight. Name's Gudge. Born Sophia, but of course I don't have no Christian name anymore since I sold out to Old Scratch. Beat me down on my price, he did, too. Look at that wart on my nose.
What nose?
Huh?
The house is up that way.
Mind if I walk along with you, pretty boy?
I don't like girls.
Huh?
No, not at all, ma'am.
No need to be afeared. With the scroungy fee they're paying me, they'll be lucky if I give 'em a whiff of brimstone.
Not so close, please.
But I did promise one manifestation and the scream of a soul in torment at the witching hour.
Yeah.
Fiddle, fiddle, aye, fiddle. Ready or not, here I come.
I'll shoot. Who is that? What's your hurry, sir?
Where do I find Mr. Hillary Bright?
Oh, you're the detective, Spade?
Right.
Oh, well, I'm Homer Langdon, attorney for the Fairley estate. Come along, I'll take you to him. Sorry for that challenge just now. Been hearing strange noises around the grounds. You notice anything peculiar as you came up the road?
Well, there was an old lady. I use the term loosely.
Looking for fennel?
Yeah.
That's the witch. Mr. Bright hired her for the party tonight.
Takes her work kind of seriously, doesn't she?
Well, you know how it is. Seasonal work.
What does she do between Halloweens?
Claims she hibernates. Gardophilia. Mrs. Fairley, Spade. She's eccentric. Don't let her know.
Check.
Oh, here I am, Homer. What was it you wanted? Oh, it's the man from the caterer.
No, Ophelia. This is Mr. Spade, the detective that Mr. Bright employed.
Oh, well, about that recipe for the aspic. Cook says she's never heard of putting fennel and lizard's claws in a tomato aspic. And Mr. Bright says hemlock is poison.
You've got it mixed up, Ophelia. That's the recipe for the witch's brew.
Well, anyway, the grocer says he doesn't stock them, so you'll have to garnish it with parsley.
Ophelia, he's not the caterer. He's the detective.
Oh! Well, keep your eye on those pumpkins. Mice, you know.
Mice?
You know, mice. Pumpkins? Where is that witch? I've got to tell her about the parsonage. Oh, witch? Mrs. Witch! Where are you?
Sad case, but harmless. Shall we go in?
Yeah.
Now, watch his jawbone, Wilma. Oh, you've already broken his neck.
Oh, why don't you hire an assistant? I don't like hanging him in the house anyway. We don't even know who he is.
What are they up to now?
Halloween comes but once a year.
Oh, it's a skeleton, part of the decoration. Hillary,
Oh, yes, Homer.
I couldn't find the witch, but here's the detective.
Oh, well, you can have the witch. I'll take him.
Oh, watch what you're doing, Wilma. The ladder.
Sorry.
This just about completes the arrangements. Oh, this is Miss Wilma Fairley, for whom I'm managing this nauseous ball, as Sam Spade.
Hillary. Is that any way to speak about a girl's 5th engagement party?
Forgive me if I'm guilty of understatement. Oh, fix that wire, Wilma. The top of Frankenstein's head's caving in. And look at that. The bolts are coming out of his neck already. Oh, well, come along, Spade. And I'll tell you how you fit into this mess.
See you at the party, Sam.
In here, Spade. Privacy.
I don't think we're quite alone, are we?
99%. This is Fairly fiancé number 5, Ralph Cram by name. Oh, wake up, Ralph.
Oh, don't bother. He started the party a little early?
Before lunch. But can you blame him? If I weren't a teetotaler, I'd be out staggering around the woods with that witch.
Uh-huh. Now, what exactly is my assignment, Mr. Bright?
I want you to be present at this miserable party tonight and pretend to have a good time.
Why didn't you hire an actor?
This is a new kind of masquerade ball. Even I have a unique problem here. A Halloween party combined with a party announcing the engagement of a socially prominent young woman. Well, naturally, the press will be on hand. They always are at my parties. But I doubt if any of the invited guests will show up. That's where you come in. You're one of the uninvited guests.
I don't get it.
Well, it's very simply this. I have a reputation to maintain. I'm sure you have better things to do than read the society page, so I'll explain. I believe some ill-informed columnists have referred to me as the male Elsa Maxwell. That's not true. She is the male Hillary Bright. Female, that is.
Anyway, you're a professional party giver, is that it?
Exactly.
What's the matter with Wilma? Why won't anybody come to her party?
Because everyone on the guest list is either a relative or a friend of some poor swain she has jilted on the very steps of the altar.
Oh, now I get it.
Exactly. Now, as to the party. Masquerade. Natch. What else can you have on Halloween?
Figures.
Yes. If anyone came, they'd probably be dressed as witches or pumpkins, which is dull enough in itself.
Quite so.
But the Fairleys and their immediate circle will undoubtedly trot out their moth-eaten Beaux-Arts costume. Old Langdon as Louis XIV. Wilma and her mother trying to look like Greek goddesses and some old drapes from a Fanchon and Marco idea.
What about the boyfriend here?
Well, you can see how hideous it's all going to be. And Life magazine has promised to cover it. Well, I simply had to do something.
What about the boyfriend?
I think it's the party idea of the year. 20 uninvited guests who will come as themselves.
Who's my date, the witch?
Oh, isn't she priceless? You know, I thought of burning her at the stake as the grand climax of the evening.
I've got matches.
No, I decided against it. It's too messy.
Well, it sounds like loads of fun, Mr. Bright, but I'm afraid you called the wrong detective.
Now,
so
wait a minute, please. Hear me out. Now, there's method in my madness. I believe I mentioned 20 uninvited guests.
Who are coming as themselves, yes.
Exactly. Well, I've gone to a great deal of trouble and expense getting together a really colorful group. All authentic types. A gangster, a shrimp fisherman, a swami, 3 bubble dancers, a gypsy, a paroled axe murderer, a sandhog. Oh, that reminds me, I must see whether the blubber arrived for that Eskimo they're flying down from Nome.
Yeah, well...
What I'm getting at, Spade, is that with a collection of people like that, well, anything might happen.
well, why didn't you invite the local police force?
Oh, they're coming in costume, of course.
Good, then you won't need me. Besides, I get $800 a day in expenses.
Mr. Spade, at the last party our local chief of police attended, the guests were held up and robbed of $50,000 worth of jewels, including the chief's gold badge. So, you see, we do need you. Hey, what's that? Oh, go back to sleep, Ralph. It's only the guests arriving.
I get $1,000 a day. You were right. You did need a detective. In fact, you could have used several others. First, the pickpocket you'd invited lifted the police chief's wallet. The axe murderer chased the witch up a tree. And the gangster and the cowboy tried to shoot it out over one of the bubble dances.
After I'd foiled a safecracker in the act of blowing the vault in the library, things quieted down and everybody formed a circle around a bonfire.
All right, quiet, please. Quiet, everyone. Quiet.
I just love these.
Mrs. Fairley has a very important announcement to make. Ophelia?
She was here just a few moments ago.
Well, have you seen her around Langdon?
A few minutes ago, she said she had a headache and went upstairs to get some aspirin.
Sam, I'm worried about Mother. Would you mind going upstairs to see what she's up to? She's been behaving so strangely tonight.
She's been behaving strangely. Sure, Wilma. I'll be right
Well,
back.
come along, let's get on with it. A witch.
Urgent!
You stand over here.
Here?
No, bring your broom. That's it. And don't look so pleasant. You're supposed to be evil.
Beware! Those not wearing toad bane is subject to warts. There's evil in this place tonight. Blood on the stone, blood in the cauldron.
I hated to miss the manifestation, and I hoped I'd get back in time for the scream of the soul in torment the witch had promised earlier in the evening. I cased the rooms on the second floor. Wilma's fiancé, Ralph Cram, was in one of them, asleep. Ophelia wasn't in any of them. But in one of the bedrooms, I found something that puzzled me. A rope made out of bed sheets dangled out of the window, but the window was closed. I walked over and opened it. The witch was still at it. I couldn't see the merry little group around the bonfire, but where the firelight glowed against the tree trunks at the edge of the woods, I saw a white-robed figure crouching in the shadows. Then I heard it.
Heard them all in the house. On her hand. Don't let any of them get away.
Right, Chief. All right, folks, you'll have to step inside.
Come on, step in.
It's Wilma, Spade. She's dead. Somebody shot her.
She was sprawled on her face at the foot of a big pine tree at the edge of the clearing. A single slug had entered her body just below her left shoulder blade. If this was part of Mr. Bright's Halloween production, I thought he'd overdone it just a little, because she was dead. As nearly as I could reconstruct it, Wilma had been standing outside the circle of people grouped around the fire as if somebody in the woods had called to her and she'd left the group to investigate. She'd been facing the fire when she was shot. Then what about the two shots that had missed her? If the killer had been aiming at her and missed, he couldn't have avoided hitting somebody else in the crowd. I went back to the house to check the guests. All there, unwounded and accounted for, except the witch. According to the local chief of police, who was rapidly turning into a toad, she had flown away on her broom. I checked my nose for warts.
The makers of Wild Root Cream Oil are presenting the weekly Sunday adventure of Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, Sam Spade. Now, here's important news on good grooming. If you want the well-groomed look that helps you get ahead, socially and on the job, listen. Recently, thousands of people from coast to coast who bought Wild Root Cream Oil for the first time were asked, how does Wild Root Cream Oil compare with the hair tonic you previously used? The results were amazing. Better than 4 out of 5 who replied said they preferred Wild Root Cream Oil. Remember, non-alcoholic Wild Root Cream Oil contains lanolin. It grooms the hair naturally, relieves dryness, and removes loose, ugly dandruff. So if you want your hair to be more attractive than ever before, get the generous new 25-cent size of Wild Root Cream Oil, America's leading hair tonic, on sale at all drug and toilet goods counters. It's also available in larger economy bottles and the handy new tube. Get Wild Root Cream Oil, again and again, the choice of men and women and children, too. And now, back to the Fairly Bright Caper. Tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
By dawn the next morning, Aloysius Becker, boy police chief, still hadn't sweated anything out of his 20-odd suspects, but yawned. The family lawyer, Langdon, had an old gun permit, no gun. Then he canvassed the town for Wilma's 18 jilted suitors. They were all alibied by their wives and children, which knocked that angle out. She carried no insurance, nobody stood to gain anything financially by her death, and nobody but you, Mr. Bright, actively disliked her. About then, Chief Becker put Ophelia back on the griddle.
Now, look here, Mrs. Fairley. You still aren't coming clean with us.
Clean? Oh, the ashtrays. I'll call the maid.
Come back here.
Yes, Chief Becker.
Now, sit down, Mrs. Fairley. Now, let's go over the part of your story where we found the bed sheets hanging out your window.
Yes,
Why did you tie the bed sheets together and hang them out the window?
for a rope.
So, you admit that you used that rope to sneak out.
I did no such thing. I always go out that way at night.
And you admit that... Oh, I give up.
Mrs. Fairley.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Spade. I want to thank you for guarding the pumpkin so well. I didn't see a mouse all evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Fairley. I only did what...
Oh, why is Chief Becker so angry?
I think what's worrying him, Mrs. Fairley, is why you closed the window behind you when you went out on your rope.
So no one would know. Wilma worries about me. You won't tell her.
Ah, it's as plain as the nose on your face what she's doing. Working up to an insanity plea.
Ingenious theory, Chief, but look, can I talk to you a minute outside?
Yeah, could use a little air. Keep 'em all here, Monahan.
Look, Chief, why don't you lay off that poor old dame? She's too vague, disorganized. It took a marksman. The way the wound was, no point of exit, just punctured the wall of the heart and stopped. A low-velocity impact.
Sure. A what?
It had been fired from about the maximum range of a .38 pistol. He'd have to figure on the drop in trajectory as the bullet slowed down. It was either a trick shot or one that just connected accidentally.
By the way, we only have your word for it that you were upstairs in the house when those shots were fired. You carry a .38, don't you, Spade?
What kind of gun do you carry, Chief?
Yes. Well, we'd better wait till ballistics sends back the report on the slug. Gosh, if we could only figure out where she hid the gun.
Don't look now, Chief, but that witch is back again.
What?
Pretty boy, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you mortals.
You're going to have a good deal of explaining to do, lady. Why did you fly away like that last night?
I had to see to my cauldron. A good thing I did, too. Look what I found in it. No wonder my manifestation didn't work. Base metal in my brew.
38 caliber, too. 3 bullets fired.
Gee, that settles it. You're under arrest.
Who, me?
Yes. No, her.
Oh, no, you don't. I'll put a spell on you, I will. I'll turn you into a toad.
Look, Chief, where's that gun permit you took out of Langdon's room?
Oh, I forgot about that. Here, it's in my pocket.
Let's see that serial number.
Well?
They match. It's Langdon's gun.
Boy, oh boy, then it's settled.
That's what you think, boy, oh boy. Don't forget, he's a lawyer. I headed for the woods. I found the spot where I'd seen the figure in white crouching just before the shots were fired. A little way back in the woods, I found footprints. French heels, short, mincing stride. Following along behind them was another set, flat soles, long, manly stride. The mannish footprints followed the feminine footprints almost to the clearing and then stopped. The feminine footprints went on straight to the spot where Wilma had fallen. I knew that no woman had been over this trail since the murder except the witch, who probably had cloven hoofs. Her cauldron had vanished, but the fire was still smoldering. I kicked through the ashes. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I found it. I raked it out with a stick and prodded it. The blackened outer layers crumbled away. It had been a raging bonfire, but there are few things harder to burn than a telephone book. The middle pages were yellowed from the heat and seared around the edges, but they were still intact. There was a hole punched in the middle of each page. Feminine footprints right up to the X that marked the spot in the phone book through which a bullet had been fired. I had a hunch the ballistics report would prove that Langdon's gun did not fire the fatal bullet. I was right, but for the wrong reason.
Yeah, you can't get around it, Chief. Ballistics don't lie. You can see here. You don't even need a magnifying glass. Take a look there.
Don't have my glasses.
Well, you ought to be able to feel it, too. Big ridges on the test slug. The other one's almost smooth. Rust pits wouldn't make a ridge like that, would they?
No, we figure they must have used a faulty cutter at the factory when they rifled the barrel.
Well, that settles it. That and those women's footprints and that phone book all point to Mrs. Fairley.
What's about a phone book?
Whoever shot her fired the slug through a phone book to make it look like a long-range job. It was a low-velocity hit, all right, but it was tearing through that phone book that slowed it down.
That proves the killer didn't have to be a marksman. Stood right next to her. Hey, what's so funny?
This picture in the morning paper, you and those bubble dancers, Chief.
Let me see that. Why, that's libelous.
It's more than that.
Huh?
There in the background, Langdon and Mrs. Fairley.
What about them?
Their shoes. Langdon's dressed as Louis XIV, French heels. Mrs. Fairley in that Greek goddess getup, sandals, flat heels.
It's Langdon's gun, then it's not Langdon's gun. It's a long-range shot, then it's through a seed catalog.
Phone book.
Now it's a man in woman's shoes. An attorney at that. Monahan, get me some fingerprints, something I can work with.
I didn't blame the chief. My somersaulting clues were getting me dizzy, too. So far, Langdon, like the good lawyer he was, had kept his mouth shut, which meant nothing one way or the other. That was smart. But he disposed of his gun by throwing it in the witch's cauldron, which was stupid. A, because it was sure to be found, and B, because there was no reason for hiding it anyway. But two stupid sometimes make a smart. If he wanted it to be found, he must have had a story ready in case he had to talk. If I were in that spot, my story would have been that I fired those shots into the woods after the fleeing killer. But I didn't know how I would explain the fact that only 3 shots were heard, one of which killed Wilma. Then I thought of those 2 ridges on that test slug. 2 ridges, 2 shots into the woods. This time, I did know what I was looking for. They were buried deep in the soft trunk of a pine tree near the ground. I dropped to my knees and dug. I got the first one out and was looking at it. It was a misshapen hunk of worthless lead. Something embedded in the side of it glittered in the sun like a diamond. In fact, it was a diamond. Then it stopped glittering. Something behind me had come between it and the sun. I flopped on my side and rolled over. I grabbed his legs and tripped him. Then I saw his face. It was Langdon. I was halfway to my feet when his foot caught me where it hurt and my legs doubled up. I tried to keep moving and get my gun out at the same time. He was on his feet again before I was, so I fired without aiming from flat on my back. It only scorched his coat, but it stopped him a second. He swung his gun up, and I got ready to jump him. But I didn't have to. A pointed black hat rose up out of the brush behind him. Something flashed in the sun, and he collapsed.
Put a spell on him, I did. With this here magic wand. Blunt instrument to you, Sonny.
Thank you, Mrs. Witch.
Guards is the handle, son, which is my profession.
Well, boy, that was a close call. Put the cuffs on him, Monahan.
Hey, what are you doing?
No, Monahan, not Spade. Langdon there. Been following him since I found out he was wearing women's shoes. Well, that settled it, eh, Spade?
Yeah, but you'll need this.
What is it?
A jeweled bullet. A slug with a diamond set in it.
Come on, hero.
It's the master clue of this caper.
Oh, yeah, the master clue. You better come along, too, lady, for questioning.
What?
We'll book her for vagrancy if we need it.
Oh, no, you don't. I'll turn you into a toad. You don't believe me, do you?
Hoppy-toad, warty and green. Feel anything?
Well, on second thought, I reckon she's harmless, poor old soul.
Soul, indeed. Ain't got any. I sold out to Old Scratch 30 years ago come next Halloween. See you then, Sonny.
Go home and gargle. Period. End of report.
But, Sam, what was the significance of the jewel bullet?
Oh. Well, after he shot Wilma, Langdon fired 2 shots into the woods, remember?
Yes.
Those 2 bullets had diamond insets so placed that they would gouge the inside of the gun barrel. All bullets fired from the gun thereafter would have markings different from the one fired into Wilma's body.
Oh. Well, he was wrong, of course, but it was noble of him to want to cover up for poor Mrs. Fairley.
What for, Abby?
Well, she killed her daughter, of course, because she was just out of patience with her, getting engaged and unengaged all the time till they hadn't a friend in the world.
That's so.
That was the motive, wasn't it, Sam?
That's fairly bright, sweetheart, except that Mrs. Fairley did not kill her daughter. Langdon did.
You mean she was his daughter, too, by a previous marriage?
Go tighten that up, sweetheart, before I turn you into a toad.
And now, listen to this. For here's a good tip. Spruce up right, spruce up now with Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Wild Root Cream Oil grooms your hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, removes loose dandruff. Get the 25-cent Get Acquainted bottle or the large economy size. And ask your barber for a professional application of Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men and women and children, too.
Well, here it is, Sam. Of course, you know best, but Mrs. Sally was the only one with a motive. Unless Mr. Bright was secretly in love with her and wanted to marry her himself.
So he killed her. That was fairly bright.
Or her fiancé. What happened to him?
He woke up and went home.
Oh, well, then I guess he didn't have a motive.
Pay attention, sweetheart. Langdon, as trustee of the Fairley estate, had embezzled large sums of money, which he would have to account for under the community property law if she got married.
She got married?
He had already broken up many of her romances, but when the old lady went soft in the head, he decided to end the danger once and for all. He could explain matters any way he wanted to, and there'd be nobody to contradict him. Are you listening up?
Sam, what does she do between Halloween?
The witch? Mm-hmm. Oh, she's the squeak in the door on Inner Sanctum.
Oh, Sam. You made the joke too small. Well, good night, Sam.
Good night, sweetheart.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, are produced and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade is played by Howard Dove. Lorene Tuttle is Effie. The Adventures of Sam Spade are written for radio by Bob Tallman and Gil Dowd. Musical direction by Lud Gluskin with score composed by Renee Garrigang. Join us again next Sunday when author Dashiell Hammett and producer William Spear join forces for another adventure with Sam Spade. Brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men and women and children, too. This is Dick Joy reminding you to
get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. It keeps your hair in trim. You see, it's non-alcoholic, Charlie. It's made with soothing lanolin. You better get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. Start using it today. You'll find that you will have a tough time, Charlie, keeping all the gals away. Hiya, Baldy. Get Wild Root right away.
This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. I think that Sam was showing all sorts of wisdom in trying to find some way to get out of this particular assignment, because he knew that this was going to be a circus. I also did quite enjoy the mystery here. You know, there were a lot of clues pointing in different directions, so the audience was just as confused as the detectives. Also, Jeanette Nolan brings her A-game in this, just taking the role of the witch as over the top as possible. As I mentioned, this is kind of a weird story to come up right before Christmas, but I do have something holiday themed to offer. And by holiday themed, I don't mean Halloween or something like Arbor Day. While there aren't any Christmas episodes of Sam Spade in circulation, there is a Christmas episode of Sam Shovel. No, not the Fred Allen Sam Shovel sketch we played a few months back. I'm talking about an Abbott and Costello Sam Shovel sketch. They actually did their first Sam Shovel sketch before the Fred Allen sketch. Fred Allen only did one, perhaps after a phone call from the Abbott and Costello's work lawyers, or perhaps just personal preference. But Abbott and Costello did a lot of Sam Shovel sketches. And I've listened to all of the 1948-49 radio season, and it took up more and more of the show as the season went on. There are 33 of these episodes in circulation, so no, we won't be playing them all. However, in our quest to provide you not only the Sam Spade episodes, but also various comedy sketches inspired by Spade, which I think really do speak to the cultural relevance and popularity of the series. Here from December the 23rd, 1948, is the Sam Shovel sketch, I'm All Yours in Buttons and Bows.
And now to the further adventures of Sam Shovel, private detective.
Yes, I'm Sam Shovel. Sam Shovel, private detective. I'm sitting here in my little office. It's mighty chilly in here. I think I'll throw another log on the fire. Every time I build a log fire in my office, the landlord complains. Maybe it's because I have no fireplace. I pick up the newspaper. I drop it on my desk. It was the Mirror. I read the one ads. Woman who washes Mondays and Tuesdays wants place to hang out on Wednesdays. Here's another one. Wanted man to teach nuclear division of atomic astrophysical cyclotronic fissures. No experience necessary. I glance out of my window to see what's playing in the movie across the street.
Chicago. Cleveland. Boston.
Must be that new picture, The Cry of the City. Next door to the movie is a Hollywood nightclub. Those Hollywood nightclubs cut the liquor so much the bartenders have to have a barber's license. In the winter, they have to put alcohol in the whiskey to keep it from freezing. I remember once my pal, Lieutenant Abbott of the Homicide Squad, was so disgusted that he went into that joint to drink himself to death. He didn't get drunk, but there was so much water in the whiskey he nearly drowned. Suddenly the phone rings. Sam Shovel speaking.
Sam Shovel, you're on the spot. Get wise to yourself. You've got to play ball with us.
Who are you?
UCLA football team. We'll play anybody.
One line went south. I look out the window again. Crowds, nothing but crowds. Everybody doing the last-minute Christmas shopping. The crowds give me an idea. I'm going to write to my congressman and have him change Christmas to April. The stores aren't so crowded then. In the crowd, I see my pal, Lieutenant Abbott. Abbott is the cheapest guy in the world all year round. But when Christmas comes, he'd give you the shirt off his back. I know. Last year for Christmas, he gave me a dirty shirt. Lieutenant Abbott is a great detective. He worked on the Morelli case, and in 2 days he had it sewed up. Then he got the Murray case, and it only took him 3 days to sew that up. Then came the famous Lewis case. He sewed it up in 24 hours. He never carried a gun. Just a sewing machine and 3 extra bobbins.
Hello, Sam Shovel. Sam, tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and I dropped in to find out what you want for Christmas.
Well, I live just a stone's throw from Hetty Lamar's house, and my bedroom window is just a stone's throw from her window.
What do you want for Christmas, Sam?
A stone. Lieutenant, why don't you send me some mistletoe so I can kiss the girls under it?
That's not mistletoe. That's mistletoe. Missile, not muscle.
When I want to kiss a girl, I gotta use muscle.
Sam, I want you to help me on a job. I've been assigned to guard at a department store during the Christmas rush.
I guarded the Broadway Hollywood store last Christmas. I put a man on the 5th Street door, a man on the Broadway door, a man on the 6th Street door.
How did you make out?
They didn't lose a single door. But all the windows were stolen.
Come on, Sam. We're going down to the store right now. Sam, this is a big store. They sell anything from sailboats to a pound of pecans.
I see. They got everything from sloop to nuts.
Come, gentlemen, you'll have to go to work right away. The shoplifters are stealing everything in aisle 9.
Where is aisle 9?
Well, this is aisle 7, that's aisle 8, and that... How do you like that? They stole aisle 9.
I think I like this job. Say, who is that gorgeous girl behind the crowded counter?
Oh, that's Miss Fairchild. She works in lady slippers.
She's beautiful. What else does she do?
She just works in lady slippers, that's all.
Hey, wait a minute. Look, that kid. He just stole a pair of roller skates. I'll get him.
You let go of me! Let me go, you copper! Let me go!
I'll teach you to steal. I'm going to lock you up.
Lieutenant, I'll take charge of this case. You keep your eye on the store. Come with me, son.
Please don't take me to jail. Please don't take me to jail.
I didn't have the heart to take that kid to jail. He didn't look like a bad kid. He was poorly dressed. His face was dirty, but I could still see some of his freckles. His name was Johnny. I took him to my little office and sat him down in a chair. I could see he was scared, plenty scared.
Gee, Mr. Shovel, I don't want to go to jail.
And I don't want you to go to jail, son. That's why I brought you here. Those were plenty expensive roller skates you took off the counter in that store, Johnny.
Oh, gee, they were only $1.98.
I'm not talking about the cost in money, Johnny. It's the cost in shame and disgrace. Not only to you, but to your mom and your dad.
Gee, I never thought about that. Mom and Dad.
That's the trouble with doing a wrong thing, Johnny. Most time it hurts others more than the guy that does it.
Gee, you're a funny guy. You're supposed to be a detective, a cop. And me and the kids in my neighborhood, we ain't got no use for coppers. But gee, I kind of like you. You don't talk like no cop. You're more like a friend.
Johnny, cops aren't bad guys. Every cop on the force wants to be the friends with every kid on his beat. When a kid is in trouble, if he'd run to a cop instead of away from him, he'd find out that cops are pretty regular fellows. You see, Johnny, you're a kid and I'm a cop. But lucky for us, we're both living in a wonderful country. A country that's interested in the welfare of its children. Our police know that no kid wants to be bad. It's just bad environment. Neglect on the part of parents. Lack of love and understanding. That makes a kid go wrong.
Yeah? And are you sure that all cops is my friends?
All cops, Johnny.
Aha, there you are.
Even him?
Even him.
I don't know what this is all about, Sam. But I gotta get this kid to the lockup. This is Christmas Eve and I gotta...
You gotta get a little of the Christmas spirit, Lieutenant. I think Johnny's very sorry for what he did. He'll never do it again.
Well, he tried to get away from me. He ran from the law. That's a sign of guilt.
Honest, I won't never do it again. I promise I won't.
Besides, Lieutenant, I think I've made Johnny understand that cops are his friends.
Yeah? Johnny, if you know that cops are a kid's best friends, you've really learned something.
Yeah, well, there's only one thing that puzzles me.
What is it, Johnny?
Well, Lieutenant Abbott's a cop, ain't he?
Yes?
Well, how could a guy with a face like that be any kind of a cop?
Oh, Johnny. Johnny, it's Christmas Eve. Listen.
Well, it's Christmas Eve again. I promised my wife I'd be in church, saying my prayers, singing hymns. And here I am in this broken down...
You don't have to be in church for that, Lieutenant. How about it, Johnny? Know the words to that song?
Yeah, I think so.
Johnny, let's try it, huh? What do you say?
Welcome back. An interesting sketch. One thing that really does stand out to me is how different this parody is from the rest of Abbott and Costello's work. They usually relied on the comedy team dynamic, clever wordplay, and in visual medium they also had physical comedy, which I don't think translated as well to radio. But here he's just delivering these rapid-fire lines. A lot of puns, but I think they're very well delivered. Superb timing. It's a nice little one-off to hear. I'm kind of dubious about whether it was a good idea to do this sort of sketch every single episode, because I don't think it's quite as funny as their typical material. But this one did have some funny images in it. Then the show turns a bit more serious, and this was made in an era where juvenile delinquency was a huge concern. And certainly the message of the episode reflected that. It also reflected Lou Costello's heart and his work with kids through the Lou Costello Jr. Foundation. He lost his son just before his first birthday. And I think it's fair to say that he channeled that grief towards positive actions and trying to help them grow up, be happy, and be good citizens. And that's definitely present in the way the episode ends. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of something extra. Now it's time to thank our Patreon supporter of the day. Thank you to Andrew, Patreon supporter since August of 2021, currently supporting us at the Shamus level of $4 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Andrew. And that will do it for today. If you are enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate and review it wherever you're downloading your podcast from. Next Monday, we'll be bringing you an encore episode, and we'll be back in 2 weeks in 2023 with another episode of Sam Spade. But coming up tomorrow, listen for Dr. Tim Detective, where...
Now, what's the news?
Mom said I'd better come up and see you. A professional visit, she called it. I don't feel so good today.
Symptoms?
Well, I've been sort of sick at my stomach, and my eyes hurt, and I feel all kind of worn out.
Personally, I think she's just trying to get out of doing homework tonight.
I am not.
Well, let me take a look, Jill. Stick out your tongue. Lay off. Sandy.
Yes, Dr. Tim.
Hand me that thermometer, will you?
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll keep it in your mouth for a while, Jill.
Now, Dr. Tim.
Yes?
You know that guy Jones upstairs?
Oh, I wouldn't say I know him, Sandy. We've spoken in the hall.
Well, I know you told us to lay off, but the doggonest thing happened just a few minutes ago while I was waiting by the stairs for Jill.
The curse of an overactive imagination. Go on.
Anyway, he came in with this other man right behind him, and Dr. Tim, I'd swear that other guy had a gun in his overcoat pocket, was pushing it right up against this Jones guy's back. They didn't see me because...
I didn't have time to laugh because just at that moment, from right overhead came the sound of a fight, and then something else. A shot. For a moment, we stood there paralyzed. It wasn't until I heard a crash of glass and saw a figure hurtle past my window and streak it over the back fence and up the alley that I could move. And by the time that we reached the upstairs room and looked...
I hope you'll be with us then. In the meantime, do send your comments to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.